you think it is? Ugh. I don't know what's wrong with StreamYard. Like, it did not tell me it was same for the 26th. I'm like, no, it's for today, for tonight. So now I'm kind of pissy because it's being a dick. Anywho, it is hot in this house. I don't know why. It's weird. It's not hot outside. Anyway, I found my playlist. My hair is doing weird shit. I don't know why. Like, I have some songs in my my watch later list, and I have no idea why. Let's see what we got on Sydney. Sure. Ooh, that looks fun. That would be fun. Ooh, I have a necklace here. Oh, oh, that's not my. Oh, that's a group discussion. My bad. I have a nice new PC. Oh, you know, that is nice. Very nice. Hello, Means. How are you? Gonna watch some weird ass videos and hopefully I don't get copyright stricken. No, it's claimed. Copyright claimed again. Because the same company keeps doing it to me, and it's like there's no way they own this shit. They just keep doing it. Hello, Bone. I'm not sure if I'm digging the lighting or not. Hi, Sith Lord. Well, yeah, I was gonna start like almost an hour ago, but then I got caught up like with listening to a bunch of music in my room. Like, so I should probably. Yeah, I know. Anyway, so we're gonna find some fun videos for us to watch. Some weird ass shit. The kind of shit you probably don't actually watch unless you're bored and you really can't sleep and it's like 5 a.m. So I have gone and found those videos for you and saved you time. Country. Yeah, I know. Like someone, I did kind of think uh, Wizard of Oz when I saw this. Hey there, NJ or Gerald, whichever you like. You look so ravish tonight. You are such a charmer. Meow. You are so sweet. Oh, charming. Gosh, you're so nice. You're definitely good for girl self-esteem because my self-esteem's taken a bit of a hit. Uh, like, you ever have like an in-law or whatever? Like, well, like I still consider like a sister-in-law even though I'm not with her brother anymore because like I like her, she's cool. I just couldn't stay married to him. Anyway, but like sometimes she talks without thinking, and like she's a little too honest, and she's not mean, doesn't mean to be mean, but it's just kind of like when kids talk, like just some shit honesty comes out, and they don't mean it to sound like it does. So like, yeah, I gave her I saw her yesterday, and gave her a hug, and she's like. You know what? Like, girl, you need to trade me because I'm like, what are you talking? Because when she gets really stressed, she doesn't eat and she's very high strung. She's like me. It's just when I'm stressed, I eat. When she's stressed, she doesn't. And she was like, "Basically, you put on a couple of pounds since I last saw you." I'm like, "Oh my god, you don't say that shit to people, even if you think it." She goes, "I'm sorry, I forgot how to human." And I'm like, "Yes, yes, you did." Like, and she's like, "I'm sorry." I'm like, "Damn it, I knew it. I knew I should have. Darn it, I knew it was catching up with me. Fuck." So I mean, I can't be mad if she's telling the truth, but it was funny though the way she did it. It was funny. Like if it had been on TV show, y'all would have just cracked up. Slapped him, maybe. I don't know. I didn't look closely to see. Hey, Maze Maz Mazarus. I think that's. I hope I said that right. Like Mazarus. Like I don't know. It's like Maze and Lazarus. It's like corn that has resurrected. That's the vibe I got. I'm sorry. Anyway, so yeah, the only bright side of me getting fatter is like these are like actually bigger too. So when I get big evenly everywhere. So that's at least a bonus to that. It kind of sucks if everything else got big and like boosting. Like, fuck. Anywho, I'm about to slap some ham. Wow. Alright, let me see. Alright, so we're going to go to screen share. And I'm going to hit the share audio button. Well, it's a checkbox. It's not really a button per se. Be careful sharing screen with audio if you have a guest. They will hear themselves. Alright, good to know. Thank you. I voiced in that box and it's accidental. I've never actually stopped reading before. What does that shit? Oh, yeah. That's fucking hot, dude. You are too cute. Oh my gosh. Alright, so, of course, like, I gotta plug shit, obviously. So. Oh, I probably should put space right there. Wait, this is now? Yes, for some reason, the stupid StreamYards didn't understand that I meant tonight, and so, like, when you said, oh, this is for tomorrow, I looked it up, and it said the 26th. I went, motherfucker, no! So apparently it just assumed I wanted this time tomorrow night, and I'm like, no, I did not give you permission for that, and so I had to fix it. So sorry about that optic eraser. It snuck it in on me. Somebody got a timestamp for that. You're a nerd. Oh my god. Titty drop. No, I don't want my titties to drop. No, I don't want to play hacky sack with them. No. I'm going to duct tape these bitches. No. Anywho. Alright. Doing the thing. Because I don't know, I have mods, but I really don't ever, like, hardly ever, like, hey, yeah, can you do this one? I don't know. I guess I kind of sort of forget I have them, but, like, not, like, I don't forget them, I just kind of forget about that thing too, I guess. I know, it sounds weird. Anyway, hey, Doris and Happy Dinosaur! Dinosaur Lives Matter. I already told somebody that if there is like a protest and there is already graffiti on the wall, I will put hashtag Happy Dinosaur 8K because it will so confuse people. Yeah, I'm sorry, Optic Racer. All right, so when you go to set up StreamYards and when you want to do it, it'll have like a certain time already put in place, and you have to correct what time you want it to be. And then over here it said on the 26th. I thought it meant automatically for today, so when I picked 10:05 or whatever, I didn't think to look over here thinking it was thinking the next day. So when you commented and you saw, Kitty makes me realize toxic masculinity is a real thing. That is hilarious, actually. Now let's not get misogynistic. Meow. I like how he adds little cat ears to the stuff he says. It's cute. Alright, so let's find some weird ass shit, people. Alright, so we got scary phone calls received from the dead. I'm not sure if I'm ready for that one. Truth be told, top 10 scary homes you should never move into. So yeah, I guess that's a good one. Maybe we'll just start with that because like these all look pretty fun. And if I get a strike or a
What's up, Top 10 fam? Hope you're having an awesome day. I'm your host, Eamon Hassan, and welcome back to another video. Now, I usually write my intros before writing the content of the videos, but with this one, I just decided to do the intro at the very end. No real reason, I just wanted to. And I honestly don't even know how to describe the atrocities that have taken place in the houses we're about to talk about.
Oh my God.
Each case is unique, it's interesting, it's brutal and vicious, and you may want to sit down for it. So these are the top 10 scary homes you should never move into. Starting us off with number 10 is the Villisca Axe Murder House. Do I even need to tell the story of this one? After hearing the name, I'm sure none of you would even want to move in. But either way, located in Villisca in southwestern Iowa, the house was home to the Moore family, which included the parents Josiah and Sarah and their 4 children. On the 10th of June 1912, one of the children invited 2 friends to spend the night at the Moore house after a children's day at the church.
Hey, Tony,
and they all got home at around 10 p.m. and that was that. The next day at 7 a.m., the Moore's neighbor Mary got worried because she didn't see any of the Moores do their morning chores. She knocked on the door and no one answered. Josiah's brother also tried opening the door after getting a call from Mary, but to no avail. Thankfully, he did have a spare key and he went inside. When he opened the guest bedroom door, he found the bodies of the 2 guests lying on their beds. He called the police immediately, and after investigation, it was found found the entire family and the two friends were bludgeoned to death with an axe. Apparently, the killer or the killers had been waiting in the attic, and as soon as everyone fell asleep, they struck. Josiah was axed the most out of everyone. His face was so disfigured, even his eyes were missing. The blade was only used on him, and the blunt part was used on the rest of the family. The culprit or the culprits were never found, and after that point, the home is considered one of the most haunted ones in America. People even pay $400+ to stay there for a single night. But these guests report hearing children's voices and seeing objects just fly across the room. A paranormal investigator even stayed there in 2014 and then stabbed himself after spending the night. Need I say more? Don't go there. Coming in at number 9 is Lemp Mansion. Located in St. Louis, Missouri, this mansion has seen its fair bit of tragedy, probably enough tragedy for a lifetime. The mansion has 33 rooms altogether and was built by William Lemp sometime in the 1860s. William and his wife had 4 sons, and after their youngest, Frederick, died, William ended up committing suicide in 1904 shortly after. So death count right now is 2. Just keep that in mind. A few years later, William's wife died of cancer in the house, death count 3, and by 1922, William Jr. ended up shooting himself in the same room his dad committed suicide in, death count 4. If that honestly isn't horrible enough, in 1949, William's 3rd son, Charles, shot his dog in the basement of the house and then went up to his bedroom and killed himself. Death count, final, 6. The house ended up being sold the same year and turned into a boarding house when obviously the hauntings began. Honestly, that many people can't die in a house for there to be no hauntings. Safe to say you'll find me in no rush whatsoever to move into the Lemp Mansion. No, thank you. At number 8, we have the previous tenant. Now, this story was shared by an anonymous person, so sadly I can't give him credit, but the show must go on. Now, this woman had just moved into her first apartment with her boyfriend, and then she heard the doorknob moving like someone was unlocking it. She didn't think anything of it, since she just assumed it was her boyfriend that came home, but then she looked at the time. It was 8:30 p.m. and usually he was meant to come home at 10:30, so something just wasn't right. She looked out the window and she couldn't see his car or anything, and that's when she started to panic. Someone kept trying to open the door, but it wasn't working. A few minutes later, they stuck some metal between the door to try and pry it open, and that failed as well. The girl was freaking out at that point like anyone would, and so she called 911 and hid in her bathroom with a knife. Good call. Honestly, always arm yourself. I've never been in this position, but I would arm myself too. The person tried to pry the door open for at least 30 minutes before giving up, and when police got there, they found an old man roaming the area with a crowbar and a knife. Apparently, he was the old tenant of the apartment, and he wanted all his stuff back that the new couples had apparently stole. They didn't steal anything. He was just very, very delusional. And if I was her in the bathroom, I would literally be sending my last text messages to all my loved ones. Just imagine being at home, hearing someone trying to come into your house and kill you and take your stuff. Filling our number 7 slot is the Bell Witch Farm. Now, this is more legend than it is confirmed, but I feel like there are just way too many intricate details in the story for it to just be mere folklore, but let me know what you guys think. Located in Robertson County, Tennessee, John Bell Sr. lived on his farm with his family, and this story focuses on just friendly neighborly war gone very, very wrong. Now, John's neighbor, Kate Batts, believed he had cheated her out of quite a bit of land, and clearly she was determined to stay salty about it forever because while on her deathbed, she promised to haunt John for the rest of her life and his. Soon after, the Bell family became the target of some of the worst haunting of all time. They would hear chains dragged across their floor, their servant would be followed by a massive black dog-looking apparition. When he went to visit his wife, John saw a massive creature who he shot at, but then who disappeared into thin air. The family would hear the sound of gnawing on their beds, the growls of invisible dogs fighting. John even started being physically haunted when his mouth just started to paralyze itself at random times. The children were then attacked when the sheets were pulled from their beds and they were literally flipped out of their beds while asleep. Kate's ghost would just scratch the children, and she hated John's youngest daughter, Betsy, the most. She would slap her, stick pins into her, like it was a proper vengeance act. And all that for a bit of land. Like, Kate, you are dead. Please move on. Now at number 6 is the Joshua Ward House. Located in Essex County, the house belonged to Sheriff George the Strangler Corwin back in the day. And he may not ring a bell, but he was the high sheriff of the county during the Salem witch trials, and I feel like everyone knows what that is. He was known throughout the country to strangle the accused by tying necks and heels, which basically means he would force the person's body into hoops, and then he would rope their neck to their feet until blood came gushing out of their mouth and their nose. Everyone honestly hated this man. He even stoned an 8-year-old farmer to death who refused to stand trial for witchcraft. He's 80 years old. Anyway, 4 years later, George had a heart attack and died. His family was so scared a riot crowd would dismember his body that they interned his body in their house's cellar. The house is now a bed and breakfast called The Merchant and is apparently one of the most haunted houses in New England. And I'm not even surprised, this dude pissed off so many people and killed them in such gruesome ways. If I was one of his victims, I'd make sure no one enjoyed being in that house ever again. And since I'd be dead, I'd have forever to spend doing it. Coming in at number 5 is the Lizzie Borden House. Located in Fall River, Massachusetts, the house is home to the Borden family in the late 1800s. Lizzie's father, Andrew, and his stepmother, Abby, were found axed to death in the house, and Lizzie scandalously became the main suspect. Also, this is the second axe murder on the list, taking place in the 1800s. Like, why was axe such a weapon of choice back in the day? Such a brutal weapon. I feel like people who use axes really enjoy seeing the bloodshed. Anyway, I drifted off. Lizzie had a long and brutal trial, but she was acquitted of both murders and then later refused to live in her family home. Lizzie and her sister Emma moved into another house they named Maplecroft, and she lived there until she died. These days, the house operates as a bed and breakfast, and funnily enough, the most requested room to lodge in is the room where Abby's body was found. You people are freaks. Apparently, guests have heard a maid screaming for help late at night and the cackling of Lizzie. Her axed parents' ghosts are also known to wander around the property. If any of you guys been there, let me know. And why are all these murder houses being turned into bed and breakfasts? Surely there's better property than that. Surely. At number 4 is the House of Death, and I didn't even make up that title. That's actually what it's called, I swear to God. Located in Greenwich Village, New York, this house was constructed way back in the 1850s, and a record 22 people have died in this house. And yes, that means the house is also haunted by 22 ghosts, which is around 23 ghosts more than I'd like. Anyway, Mark Twain lived in the house at the beginning of the 1900s, and his ghost is said to be seen on the first floor near the staircase. The family home was turned into a 10-unit apartment building, and the first couple that moved in there felt a monstrous moving shadow looming over them at all times. The actress Jan Bartel, who felt the shadow, wrote a memoir about her experiences at the house, how she felt hands brushing her neck and this rotting odor that was just always present. She'd have visions of seeing people, and when the couple called a medium, the person felt many dead things under the floorboards, whether that was a dead girl or a cat perhaps, and after hearing that, the couple left very soon after. Former attorney Joel Steinberg moved into the place a few years later and beat his partner's 6-year-old daughter into a coma, after which she died. Residents have seen the ghosts of that little girl, another lady in white, another one in black, a grey cat, and just many, many more. Safe to say, unless these 22 ghosts are paying rent, I'm not sharing a house with them. Thank you. Next. Filling our number 3 slot is the Los Feliz Mansion. Why do so many bad things happen at mansions? Like, do rich people just attract murder? I'm very confused. Anyway, the mansion is located on a hilltop in LA, and boy, oh boy, does it have a brutal past. During the 1950s, the mansion was owned by Dr. Harold Perelson, his wife, and their 3 children. On the night of December 6, 1959, something came over Harold that people are still unable to explain 50 years later. He went downstairs and beat his wife to death with a hammer. He then moved on to one of his daughters and severely beat her too, but thankfully not to death. After these random acts of violence, Harold decided to commit suicide by drinking a mix of acid, water, and tranquilizer pills. After the horrific incident, the mansion was bought a year later as a storage site, but no one lived there for the next 50 years. Neighbors remember seeing the couple who bought the house move boxes into the mansion, but they never stayed the night. The couple's son Rudy inherited the house, and although he has no plans to sell it, he still has no plans to live there either. No one has been invited into the home after the murders, but trespassers and adrenaline junkies do come there. Like, they have picnics in the decaying garden. They've even tried to break in. And the real reason they want to see it is because the Perelsons' furniture is all still in there. Like, if you look through the window, you can see the 50s style TV, a Christmas tree with gifts underneath it, and it's just exactly the same as it was that fateful night, except covered in dust and death. Now, people speculate Harold did it because of financial troubles, while others say they found documents of him having been secretly hospitalized in his past. Whatever the case, his children actually survived the ordeal and haven't been in the media since. Not that you have the option to move into this house since it's owned by Rudy, I just wouldn't do it. Now at number 2 is the Kreischer Mansion. Now the mansion is located on Staten Island in New York and was built by German immigrant Balthasar Kreischer back in 1885. The house is a 2.5-story beauty. It has a bunch of verandas, decorative railings, tall chimneys. It's just very cute. Anyway, the man had 2 sons, Edward and Charles, and in 1894, Edward shot himself in his right temple, dying instantly. His ghost has been seen all over the property for decades, but it just gets worse than that. Now, his ghost has been seen all over the property for decades, but it gets a lot worse. The family business burned down during the Great Depression, and they lost everything. By 1998, the property was bought in order to be restored. It was sold again, and in 2005, a horrible mob killing took place inside the home. The caretaker of the home was found out to be a hitman for the Bonanno crime family, which was one of the major families in the American mafia at the time. Now, the person killed was a rival mob associate called Robert McKelvey. Apparently, Robert had a big mouth and owed one of the associates, Gino Galastro, a lot of money. He was lured to the Kreischer Mansion, and kudos to him, he put up quite a fight against the 5 people he was up against, one being Gino, who was also a mafia soldier. Don't even know what a mafia soldier is, didn't even know they existed. Either way, the 5 failed to strangle him to death, so they stabbed him, then dragged his body to the pond, and then drowned him. They then dismembered his body with a hacksaw and incinerated all of it in the mansion's furnace. Now, the owners of the mansion had no clue this had even happened. They were in the middle of developing the house into an assisted living center for old people and had recently replaced the furnace. That's so innocent. Like, I love how they just had no idea what was going on. Cute. And finally, at number 1 is the Menendez murder home. Other than the murder of Sharon Tate and Nicole Brown Simpson, this is probably one of the biggest Hollywood murder cases ever. And honestly, not that I know who Jose and Kitty Menendez were since they were before my time, but I'm sure a lot of you probably do. Now, Jose was a self-made Cuban millionaire and the executive vice president at an independent film company. The couple and their sons Eric and Lyle were renting a house in Beverly Hills while renovations were being done on their actual home. Now, the 2-story house has 9,000 square feet of living space and takes up just about half an acre of land. It has a private tennis court, it has pools, a 2-story guest house, and Elton John even rented it at one point. On the night of August 20th, 1989, 2 suspects entered the home with a shotgun and shot Jose and Kitty to death. The culprits? None other than their 2 sons, Eric and Lyle. Now, it said Jose was very, very demanding of his sons, making them meet impossible standards, and Kitty was suffering from an array of things: depression, drug addiction, and alcoholism. The brothers were sentenced to life in prison for the murders, and their trial was highly publicized on TV. The brothers had had run-ins with the law before, but since their dad basically shat money, it was never a problem. Described as a sociopath, Lyle had a horrible temper and a mean streak, and he was apparently the mastermind behind it all. Eric, on the other hand, was sensitive and quiet, and he's actually the one who confessed to his therapist about the murder. During the 6 months after the murders, the brothers spent $1 million of their parents' money just partying away. Eventually, Eric's therapist told his girlfriend about the murders, who then told the police. Took you long enough. During their trials, the brothers said their parents abused them, but there was little to no evidence of that. I know that was a lot more detail than necessary, but I just found the case so interesting. Like, what would possess you to shoot your own parents when they could give you everything you ever wanted? Even if they couldn't, why would you shoot your own parents? And that's it for today's video, guys. Usually I've had most of the houses on these lists, like the Amityville house, for example, but I was like, no, these are all going to be ones I've never heard of. And honestly, I was pleasantly surprised at how interesting they were, and also pleasantly horrified at what took place in each one. Let me know what you thought in the comments below, and as always, I'm your host, Eamon Hassan, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!
Well, that was fun. I mean, she was annoying. Sorry about that. Like, I haven't really watched these, so I didn't know that she was going to be annoying. Super sorry about that. Wookie called her one of the Spice Girls. Yeah, I don't think she's really one of the Spice Girls. She's like annoying Spice, I think. I don't know. But anyway, let's see. All right, so that was apparently very annoying. So we're just going to remove that from the list and hope that never happens again. So, let's see. 5 secret videos. I don't know if I want to see the videos. Like, that might be a little too real. You know what I'm saying? Like, I might, yeah. Passages. Okay, I think the passages sound like it could be fun. I think.
Sometimes when you see a passage, you think to yourself, well, I'm going to walk down that all on my own, and I'm sure everything will be absolutely fine. But other times you look at a passage and think, well, geez Louise, that's a spooky little path. I'm not going down there. No way, no how. See? Well, we sure hope you like being spooked, because we've only gone and made a video about the latter. These are scary passages that should have stayed secret. Before we begin, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and click the notification bell for more amazing videos every day. That being said, let's begin.
Oh, they got little bats. That's so cute.
Number 10. A path to Area 51?
What?
Area 51 is the name of a highly classified United States Air Force base located in the Nevada desert. Nobody really knows what goes on there, and we didn't even know if it was real until the CIA confirmed its existence in 2013. The secrecy Area 51 continues to be shrouded in has led people to theorize that those who work there are studying alien technology and life forms.
Well,
lately, there's been a renewed interest in what exactly takes place at Area 51. In September 2019, a Facebook group with over 2 million members announced plans to stage an assault on the base. But 1,999,900 of them thought better of it at the 11th hour. It's widely believed that different areas of the base are connected via a network of underground tunnels, and that some of those tunnels may provide passage into Area 51 from the outside. Back in 2017, YouTube channel Explore With Us took viewers on a tour of some of the deserted buildings and tunnels surrounding Area 51.
Oh my god, that looks like fun!
The team believed that this ruined entrance to an abandoned tungsten mine may lead directly into the facility. Even if that were the case, any entry point into Area 51 is going to be heavily guarded, so the explorers took care not to cross the official border. Still, it's a fascinating prospect to think that such an assuming passage could lead to a top-secret military base, and secrets that, if revealed to the general public, could change the world forever. Now it's time for the odd topic. This passage, located in Michigan, has a long and disturbing history.
Wow.
It looks like an ordinary tunnel, and sure, many cars have driven down it, no problem. But it is walking down it that is said to cause great problems. In 1974, a man called Harry Theakston was walking home in the middle of the night after his car broke down. Everything was fine, until he walked into this passage. Within minutes of stepping inside, Harry heard a strange scratching sound that seemed to be coming from inside the walls. Totally freaked out, he made a break for it, running as fast as he could. And as he did, he claims to have heard laughter coming up out of the floor. Upon finally escaping the passage, he was shocked to find that he stepped back out the same entrance he had originally stepped through. No matter how many times he attempted to walk through the passage, he just never seemed to emerge on the right side. Remember to comment down below with the hashtag #OddTopic and let us know your opinion in relation to what we just showed on screen. And now, to the next topic. Number 9. The Churchill Tunnel. Usually, the train graveyard is the spooky-sounding name given to areas where disused locomotives are sent to live out the rest of their days. However, the Churchill Tunnel took the concept to a whole new level of creepy back in the mid-1920s. This 4,000-foot railway tunnel in Richmond, Virginia, first opened in 1873 but closed in 1902. Then, about 20 years later, the local authorities decided to reopen the tunnel as part of their plan to boost the city's infrastructure and support its growing population. Of course, the tunnel needed some serious work before it could be reopened to the public. But on October 2nd, 1925, disaster struck. A team of laborers were passing through the tunnel on a steam-powered locomotive to clean and reinforce the ceiling when it suddenly caved in. The men were buried alive, and even worse, they were horribly scalded by steam shooting out of the damaged train. One of them managed to escape, but died from his injuries. An operation was soon underway to look for survivors, recover bodies, and figure out how the catastrophe had occurred. As workers sifted through the rubble, it's said they discovered a man with bloody fangs hunched over one of the corpses. The Richmond Vampire. The man apparently fled the scene, and authorities followed him to a crypt in a nearby cemetery. The bodies inside were removed and the crypt sealed shut, as was the railway tunnel. However, strange noises have since been heard coming from the tunnel, like a man's voice screaming, "Get me out!" and the screeching wheels of a real-life ghost train.
Oh my God, I want to go check that out so
dare
bad.
to investigate the Churchill Tunnel,
Holy
if
crap.
it's even possible. Still, we all know what ghost hunters are like, and in the interest of safety, we think this is one scary passage that should have definitely stayed secret. Number 8. The Other Churchill Tunnel. By some freakish coincidence, the Sensabaugh Tunnel is also located in Churchill, except this Churchill is a city in Tennessee, not a district in Richmond, Virginia. Weird, huh? The tunnel was named after the owner of the land, Edward Sensabaugh. Legend has it that one night, a homeless man broke into Edward's home and kidnapped his baby daughter. The burglar then took the child into the Sensabaugh Tunnel and drowned her. These days, locals are convinced the tunnel is haunted. Some say that if you turn your car engine off inside the tunnel, you won't be able to turn it back on, while others have reported hearing Edward's footsteps or the distressed cries of his tragic baby girl. However, official records bear no mention of the killing, while the Southern States Paranormal Research Society failed to find any evidence of ghostly happenings. Furthermore, Edward was known to have a talent for mimicking animals. Apparently, he would often go down into the tunnel and make loud shrieking noises to try and scare off trespassers. A far more believable explanation for these bizarre reports. Number 7. Shanghai. You may have heard people using the term Shanghai, but have no idea what it means. Well, you're about to find out. The Shanghai tunnels are the collective name for a labyrinth of scary passages, not in Shanghai, China, but beneath the streets of Portland, Oregon.
Oh,
The
no
tunnels
way.
connected many of the bar and hotel basements in Portland's Chinatown area. Most of them are in ruins now, but some have survived through the ages. The tunnels that still stand are said to be haunted by the ghosts of men who were kidnapped and forced into a life of slavery at sea. You see, back in the 19th century, the city of Portland provided
Hi,
ship
Nightbreed.
workers with an excellent opportunity to escape from what was a very difficult life. Wanting to replace their lost laborers in a pinch, sea captains paid gang members to kidnap drunks from the bars and transport them to the waterfront through the Shanghai tunnels.
Yikes.
Number 6. The Screaming Tunnel.
Oh, fuck.
Niagara Falls, located on the border between New York State and Ontario, Canada, is the setting for this next tunnel-related urban myth. Aptly named the Screaming Tunnel, this spooky passage runs beneath a Canadian National Railway's train line and is said to have been the final resting place for a very unfortunate young girl. According to local legend, the girl's home had caught fire in the middle of the night. She somehow managed to get away from the blaze, but her clothes had caught fire as she was escaping the burning building. Tragically, she only made it as far as the tunnel before she collapsed and died, screaming in agony. Now, her ghost is said to haunt the area. Several people claim to have heard piercing cries echoing through the tunnel, while others say if you try to light a match, an unseen force will blow it out immediately. Naturally, ghost hunters from around the world have flocked to the Screaming Tunnel in hopes of hearing this paranormal phenomenon with their own ears. However, the myth does have its detractors, who believe the local coyotes could be behind the strange sounds coming from the tunnel. The wild canines are known for their high-pitched squeal, after all. Number 5. The Blue Ghost Tunnel.
Oh, shit.
Not far from the Screaming Tunnel is the Meriton Tunnel, also known as the Blue Ghost Tunnel.
Pretty looking.
Coincidentally, the Blue Ghost Tunnel is an abandoned railway tunnel in Ontario, Canada, and was previously used by the Grand Trunk Railway, the predecessor of the Canadian National Railways. This company really needs to rethink where it lays its tracks. A ghost hunter investigating the Screaming Tunnel took a wrong turn and happened upon the Meriton Tunnel instead. A photograph he took near the entrance appeared to show a blue, mist-like apparition in the shape of a person. The Grand Trunk Railway only used the tunnel for a short period, yet several tragic accidents took place during that time. The most notable was a catastrophic head-on collision between two steam trains on the morning of January 3rd, 1903. The engineers escaped with minor injuries, but each of the train's firemen suffered horrific, grisly deaths.
Damn.
2 other incidents occurred during the tunnel's construction. Over 100 laborers were killed in various accidents, and a young boy was crushed to death by a landslide in 1875, a year before the tunnel opened to the public. In addition, the project was said to have disturbed more than 600 bodies buried in a nearby cemetery. Number 4. The Gold Camp Road Tunnels. Colorado's Gold Camp Road is the location of 3 tunnels carved into the mountains, and the backdrop of one of the most terrifying urban legends ever told. The story goes like this. Back in 1987, a school bus was traveling through Tunnel 3 when it collapsed, tragically killing everyone inside. Dialing up the creepy factor, it said that all the children on the bus were orphans. Ghost hunters have spoken of hearing children screaming or giggling as they investigated the area, while passers-by have reported tiny, childlike handprints mysteriously appearing on their car windows after driving through Tunnel 3. The story has been called into question, though, as there don't appear to be any official records of the accident. The tunnel indeed collapsed in 1987, but as far as the state of Colorado is concerned, it only collapsed partially, and no one was killed. Number 3. The Bloody Pit. More commonly known as the Hoosac Tunnel, this railway tunnel definitely earned its nickname. Located in the U.S. state of Massachusetts, the Hoosac Tunnel was the final resting place of a huge number of laborers who worked on its construction. One notable incident took place on October 17, 1867, when a massive gas explosion killed 13 people. Another worker ventured down into the shaft to investigate, but emerged almost immediately, barely able to speak as he choked on the noxious fumes. The true extent of the Bloody Pit's horrors remain to be seen, but not for long. The explosion had also damaged some pumping equipment, causing the shaft to flood and hundreds of corpses to float to the top.
Oh, shit.
Considering all the deaths that took place here, it's no wonder the tunnel is said to be haunted. Many of the locals have reported seeing terrifying apparitions, not only in the tunnel itself, but also up in the mountains. Unlike many of the creepy locations featured in this video, the Hoosac Tunnel is still in use today. Number 2. The Moonville Tunnel. Moonville might sound like a romantic place, but this Ohio town is the birthplace of a scary urban myth. A railway tunnel in the area is said to have been the location of the deaths of several pedestrians trying to use it as a convenient shortcut, only to get hit by trains. The legend goes that one of the victims tried to get the attention of the train driver by waving a lantern he was holding, but still, the driver couldn't stop the train in time. There have been several reported sightings of ghosts in the tunnel, with many claiming to have seen a dismembered light floating in midair, almost like a lantern. Chilling. Number 1. The Big Bull Tunnel. Our whistle-stop ghost hunting tour of America's railroad tunnels has brought us full circle back to the state of Virginia and its Big Bull Tunnel, the scene of many horrific deaths. Railroad engineers Robert Lemon and Blair Turner met similarly grisly ends in separate incidents. The official reports state that the trains they were working on both hit chunks of fallen rock, and the impact caused them to be thrown onto the tracks. But could their deaths have been the result of paranormal activity? Today, the Big Bull Tunnel is believed to be inhabited by malevolent spirits, with reports of aggressive, disembodied voices and groaning sounds coming from within its walls. So, what do you think about these scary passages? Are these urban legends fact or fiction? Also, check out our other cool stuff showing up on screen right now. See you next time. Given how expensive ships are, you would think that the people who own them would take more care. But there's actually a surprising number of ships around the globe that have been abandoned, either at docks or even at sea, permanently drifting with nowhere to go. But while sometimes the stories behind them are simple, other times the truth of how a long-forgotten ship came to be sailing the seven seas all alone is a mystery in need of investigation. These are the 15 most mysterious abandoned ships in the world.
Is that weird?
Number 15. The Mary Celeste. What would make a family abandon a perfectly good boat laden with 6 months' worth of food and supplies? That's the age-old question, and one that no one yet knows the answer to. Mary Celeste was a two-masted sailing vessel, or brigantine, that weighed a whopping 282 tons. She set sail from New York Harbor, bound for Genoa, Italy, in November 1872. On board Mary Celeste was the captain of the ship, Benjamin Briggs, his wife Sarah, their daughter Sophia, aged 2, and 8 crew members. On December 5th, less than a month later, the boat was found at full sail and adrift by the British ship De Gracia, about 400 miles from the Azores. The family and crew were all missing, as was a lifeboat, but the ship was undamaged. All that looked out of place was several feet of water in the hold and around 6 months' worth of food and water left behind. Where did they go? What happened to them after they left the boat? Why did they abandon their ship? A range of different theories have been thrown around over the years. Some people say a pirate attack could have caused them to flee or be taken, while others think it was a giant octopus. More sound theories exist too, such as rough seas and a clogged bilge pump seeing the occupants abandon ship at the first sight of land. However, this mystery wouldn't be the first or last time Mary Celeste saw tragedy and controversy. She was originally given the name of Amazon, but was renamed after bad luck, such as deaths and illnesses on board and collisions at sea. She also had several owners over her lifetime. Its last owner ran it aground in Haiti to try and claim insurance, and it has never been seen since. Before we go on, we have a cool challenge for y'all. It'll take about 5 seconds to complete. Let's make a deal. Just leave a like on this video, smash that subscribe button, and hit the notification bell, and you will get 10 years of amazing luck and fortune. Try it. It actually works. Now it's time for the odd topic. The mystery of this particular abandoned ship isn't just whose is it and why was it abandoned. The extra mystery is, how did it get on top of the rock? The obvious answer is that the sea levels may have dropped, leaving it stranded up there. But sea levels the world over are rising, not falling. And even if that were the case, would the water not eventually rise up to where it was and whisk the ship away? Yet, from what we've been told, that ship has been sat atop that rock, undisturbed, for centuries. There's probably only one answer. Whoever abandoned it deliberately left it up on the rock. But why? Sadly, there are no sailing records associated with the ship. But expert historians suspect that this may have been a pirate ship, and the pirates who abandoned it were probably trying to create some kind of makeshift temple structure. Or perhaps some kind of tombstone to men lost at sea.
I want to know where that's at.
What do you think? Let us know. As always, comment down below with the hashtag #OddTopic and let us know your opinion in relation to what we just showed on screen. Let's move on to the next one. Number 14. The World Trade Center ship.
What?
In 2010, construction efforts at the site of the World Trade Center were well and truly underway. Construction workers were preparing the site of an underground parking and security complex 22 feet below the street level. This area sat south of what used to be the Twin Towers. While the workers had come across animal bones, shoes, ceramic dishes, and trash, they were gobsmacked to discover a boat with a hull measuring 32 feet long. The wooden ship featured white oak materials and was thought to date back to 1773. Pieces of the boat were sent to the Maryland Archaeological Conservation Laboratory and the Tree Ring Laboratory at Columbia University. Everyone was intrigued to work out when the ship had been constructed and how old the wood was. No one knows if it was sunk on purpose or if it had been strategically used to build up the coastline around Manhattan. However, oysters on the hull point to the idea that it had sat in the water for some time before it formed part of the World Trade Center site. Number 13. Whoa. Nameless shipwreck. In 2019, a team from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration were testing equipment when they stumbled across something they certainly don't see every day: a 19th century shipwreck. The team was aboard their exploration vessel, Okeanos Explorer, in May when their remotely operated vehicle's sonar picked up a shipwreck shape. Curious at their find, they went in for a closer look. They emailed marine archaeologists, started a live video feed for those who were interested, and began a virtual dive. Experts who watched the live footage, which lasted for hours, weighed in with what they believed they were seeing. It was a 19th century schooner or brig around 124 feet long and wooden with copper sheathing on its hull. The hull, winch, and bow give it a construction period, but not necessarily a time of sailing. The copper sheathing protected the wood of the boat up to the waterline, but the copper plate was all that was left behind in some areas. A lack of personal possessions and the appearance of charring and bent fasteners offer a clue as to what happened. An all-consuming fire may have begun on board before the boat sank. The only identifying factor is a series of numbers on the rudder, 2109. Number 12, Whoa. The Lubov Orlova. It's all over for Lubov Orlova. But for a time, this boat was a problem for which no one wanted to claim responsibility. The Lubov Orlova was a Russian cruise ship that was built for a Soviet-based company in Yugoslavia in 1976. Its primary purpose was to make expeditions to Antarctica. However, Canadian authorities discovered the boat's owners were involved in a debt scandal, so while it was docked in St. John's Harbor in Newfoundland, they seized it. The hull, which was worth around $800,000 in scrap materials, was going to be sold to the Dominican Republic. While it was waiting for D-Day, the cruise ship came loose in a storm and drifted out into international waters. It then spent a considerable amount of time in North Atlantic waters, supposedly with cannibalistic rats on board. With the unlikelihood that it would drift back into Canadian waters, Transport Canada effectively wiped their hands clean of it, much to the disgust of those such as the Irish, who believed it could have a detrimental environmental impact. The last it was heard from or seen was in 2013 when an Irish Coast Guard received a warning signal from it. 2 lifeboats had fallen off it, which automatically sends a radio beacon. At this point, it was around 700 meters from Ireland's coast. A satellite was sent over the location to find no sign of the boat. It's presumed sunk. Number 11. The Mary Rose. Perhaps one of the more exciting finds at the bottom of the ocean was of the Tudor warship Mary Rose. Mary Rose was a Carrack-style warship that launched in 1511 as one of the earliest warships like it in the world. She was not only one of the first, but also one of the largest in the English Navy. Before it sunk in the Battle of Solent in 1545, it had proven itself in battles with Brittany, Scotland, and France. What was to be its downfall was not another ship, but itself. The Mary Rose, according to eyewitnesses, had been firing all of its cannons on one side. It was turning to bring its remaining guns to bear when a gust of wind caused it to tip. The sudden movement caused a rush of water to flood through the open gun ports. Heavier guns than the boat was suited for may have also played a part, and this oversight caused the loss of over 500 lives in the strait between England and the Isle of Wight. It wasn't until 1988 that Mary Rose was raised from her watery grave, along with those who went down with the ship. She was taken to the Portsmouth Historical Dockyard Museum for preservation and research. Using isotope analysis and DNA testing under the Mary Rose Trusts program, The Many Faces of Tudor England, researchers were able to learn a great deal about this boat and its crew. From the 8 skeletal remains they've analyzed so far, they've been able to work out that a muscular teen was aboard the boat between the age of 14 and 16. He was of African descent with a North African father and a North African or Southern European mother. Number 10. The Belle Amica. Remember that time you misplaced your yacht and had to buy a new one? But that is one of the stories being floated about how a $600,000 twin-masted sailing vessel ended up drifting off the coast of Italy. It contained someone's half-eaten dinner, some clothing, and charts outlining information on the Mediterranean. Everything else remains a mystery. The 66-foot-long yacht of a beautiful and classic design was in perfect condition and had no identifiable markers. Police found a plaque with the name Belle Amica, but there were no yachts registered with that title. It's also not known whether it was abandoned intentionally or not, and a punctured tender boat had not been removed. There have been no reports of missing or stolen yachts, of missing people, or yachts going walkabouts. While police are not ruling anything out, they're certainly keen to get to the bottom of how a pristine boat on the island of Sardinia, known for its affluence, can go unclaimed for as long as it has. Has a millionaire forgotten where they parked it? Did someone forget they owned it and just went out and bought a new one? Guess we'll never know. Number 9. The Jean Sang. The oceans are so vast that we will never find everything floating on it, under it, and within it. But when we do find something, it always tends to be something quite absurd, like a boat that no one owns or claims. In 2006, a 260-foot-long boat was found floating around the Gulf of Carpentaria, southwest of Waipa. Customs officials from Australia were not initially able to identify its port of origin or nationality. It also had a broken tow rope hanging from the bow, indicating that it was being towed when the rope broke. The motor was not operational. Nothing of value was found aboard the boat apart from rice, which indicated it was a restocking boat for fishing trawlers outside of Australia's economic zone. Documentation found later stated the boat was called Jean Sang, but it had been painted over. No one came forward to claim the vessel, so it was sunk in deep waters to become an artificial reef. Number 8. The MV Joyita. The MV Joyita is like a puzzle, but instead of all the pieces belonging to the one puzzle, they come from all different ones. Basically, no one has any idea how to create a picture of what happened to the MV Joyita back in 1955. The merchant vessel set off from Apia Harbor in Samoa with 25 people on board on October 3rd. It was one day later than scheduled due to a port engine clutch failure, but it left with one engine still working. On board were 2 children, a doctor, 16 crew, a government official, and other passengers. Medical supplies, empty oil drums, timber, and foodstuffs made up the majority of the cargo on board the vessel. It was supposed to reach the Tokeleu Islands around 270 miles away in 2 days, but it never turned up. The Royal New Zealand Air Force covered around 100,000 square miles without a single sighting. 5 weeks later, the boat was spotted around 600 miles from its planned route. It was partially submerged, but was in no danger of sinking, and no signs of crew or passengers were found. 4 tons of cargo were missing, as were the logbook, chronometer, navigation equipment, and sextant. Blood-stained bandages were also found in the doctor's bag on deck. No distress call had been made, but the radio was tuned into 2182 kilohertz, a known distress channel in international waters. There was also enough fuel on board to indicate the boat had made it to within 50 miles of Tokeleu. To this day, no one has any idea what happened to those on board the ship, or what even happened on that fateful day. Number 7. The Kaz 2. The Kaz-2 is one of the most mysterious cases of an abandoned boat that authorities in Australia have ever come across. A 39-foot catamaran was found drifting near Australia's northern coastline. Its engine was running, as were the computer systems and a laptop on the table, and the table had even been laid for dinner with food, but no one was on board or nearby. No distress calls had been made, and no life jackets were missing. All emergency systems were operational but unused. The 3 men who set off on the boat were neighbors from Perth, Western Australia, aged between 59 and 69. A range of theories were floated, but none can be confirmed. Rough weather may have caused the men to jump overboard, or a freak wave may have been to blame. We may never know what caused 3 men to leave on a boat, but only a boat to come home. Number 6. The Zebrina. The Zebrina was a 3-mast, flat-bottomed schooner that was launched in 1873 for meat transport. Given that the meat had to go from South America to the UK, and boats of the time had no suitable refrigeration or great speeds, she was subsequently deemed inappropriate for the job. After this brief life as a meat boat, the Zebrina found odd jobs in ports around Europe, before leaving Cornwall bound for France with a cargo of coal. But a mere 2 days later, she was found drifting in Cherbourg and ended up ashore south of there at Roselle Point. Once French Coast Guards climbed aboard, they discovered minimal disruption. The table was set for breakfast, and the captain's log was visible. The only thing missing was the people, all of them. The most widely thought cause for this strange boat abandonment is a U-boat attack. Because the Zebrina has a flat bottom, torpedo attacks don't come to much. It's likely that the crew were removed from the boat by enemies, but may have been involved in some kind of submarine accident afterward. They were never repatriated after the war and were never seen again. Number 5. The Carroll A. Deering. The Carroll A. Deering was one of the last wooden schooners to be built before iron was the more preferred material of choice. It was built in 1919 and left Norfolk, Virginia in 1920 in good condition. On board were 10 crew and a captain on their way to Rio de Janeiro to deliver coal. The vessel arrived on schedule, delivered the coal, but never made it home. Instead, the Carroll A. Deering was found marooned on Diamond Shoals by a Coast Guard. Before the boat was found, a lighthouse keeper at Cape Lookout recalled seeing the vessel and a crewman. As it passed the lighthouse, the crewman had said the boat had lost its anchors. When the seas had calmed enough for the members of the Coast Guard to board the boat, they found some unusual sights. Dinner was on the stove, but everything else, including navigational equipment, documents, and personal possessions, were gone. The crew were never seen again, and the boat was blown up to stop it from becoming a marine hazard. Number 4. The Bachimo. The SS Bachimo, formerly known as Anger Manelfen, let's go with Bachimo, until 1914, fortunately has a far better story to tell. While the boat is lost, the crew aren't, and that has to be a good thing. The 230-foot-long cargo steamer from Sweden started life transporting goods between Hamburg and Sweden. At the end of World War I, the British claimed it as part of wartime reparations. It was then used for pelt trading along the Canadian coast from 1921 and spent a decade moving from Scotland to Canada and back again. In 1932, the steamer became trapped in ice near Alaska. The crew hiked to an Alaskan town and waited for it to melt. It then got stuck again, but more seriously. Most of the crew were airlifted off the boat, but the captain and 14 sailors stayed behind to keep an eye on it, even in punishing weather conditions. Temperatures rose enough to release the boat from its icy entrapment, but a blizzard saw it impossible for the men to get back to it. When they did, it was gone. They found it floating around 45 miles away, but it was no longer seaworthy. They unloaded the cargo and let her sail the Arctic waters alone. She's been seen at least a dozen times in the last 40 years, with the last reported sighting in 1969. Number 3. The SS Orang Medan. The SS Orang Medan is one boat that leaves many questions, but no answers for them. Did the boat even exist? Is the story entirely embellished? We may never know. As the story goes, the SS Orang Medan was in the Strait of Malacca when nearby boats received a distress call. The caller described all officers and the captain dead in the chart room, and possibly all the crew as well. He then ended the call saying, "I die," and presumably he did. When rescuers got to the boat, they found what the radio operator had described and more. All had been found on their backs facing the sun with faces of horror. Even the dog on board looked like it had been frozen with fear. Shortly after, a fire started in the bow, and the rescuers had to disembark. The SS Ourang Medan then exploded and sunk. There are no records of this boat ever existing, which brings some possible truth to the cause of the explosion. Stored cargo of nitroglycerine and potassium cyanide. Given the boat supposedly existed in the 1940s, secret weapons and equipment would have gone under the radar. No one knows for sure what saw the end of the boat's men, or even the boat itself. Number 2. The SS Valencia. Whoever named the West Coast Trail along Vancouver Island as the graveyard of the Pacific weren't lying. This dangerous coastline has claimed an alarming number of souls, and evidence of such remains a century later. The SS Valencia was a steamer that had spent its life as a troop, cargo, and passenger boat. In its later years, it carried passengers from San Francisco to Seattle. During an excursion in 1906, it ran aground and started taking on water. The captain ordered his men to beach the boat as it was only 55 yards from the shore. Instead, the ship hit rocks and couldn't reach safety. Against the captain's orders, all the lifeboats were launched, and with disastrous consequences. Some flipped, some capsized, and others disappeared. As a result, 136 people lost their lives, including all women and children. Just 37 men survived. The remains of the wreck can still be seen from the West Coast Trail to Pachina Beach. Number 1. The High Aim 6. The High Aim 6, with the Chinese name of Haiyan Luhao, was a Taiwanese vessel that flew under an Indonesian flag. It left southern Taiwan in October 2002, but was found drifting in Australian waters in January 2003. The ship's owner, Sai Huang Shuher, hadn't spoken with the captain since December 2002. The boat was found around 91 miles from the Australian Exclusive Economic Zone in calm waters. All the crew's personal items were on board, nothing appeared to be stolen, and there were no distress signs or signals. It almost looked like the crew had just up and left. There was also plenty of fuel and supplies on board, and rotting fish in the hold ruled out people smuggling. 5 days before a team went on board to investigate, the boat was identified as running. By the time it was boarded, the rudder was locked and the engine was dead. A distance of around 8,400 miles was covered to find the crew, but no one was ever discovered. But we're about to add a plot twist. Police tracked down an Indonesian crew member who said the engineer, Lin Chung Lee, and the captain, Chen Tai Cheng, had been murdered. Why? No one knows. We don't even know if it actually happened. What also added fuel to the fire was information provided that placed the boat 3,500 miles away in the Marshall Island before it was found. It was only after then that the boat's owner reported he had been unable to contact the owner. No one knows how many people were on board, but 7 toothbrushes indicate 7 crew, or at least 7 hygienic crew. Piracy was all but ruled out due to no loss of equipment and no signs of struggle. Police said they might never know what happened to the crew or why the boat was seemingly abandoned. Does all this talk of shipwreck and boat abandonment make you want to board a ship anytime soon? Probably not. Have you seen any spooky abandoned boats? What's up with all the meals left on the tables on these boats? Also, check out our other cool stuff showing up on screen right now. See you next time.
I hit the wrong thing. Apparently, I wasn't paying attention, so, I was invited to hang out with Sasha on his stream, and, yeah. Apparently, it was midnight his time, so I was like, I thought you meant midnight. He goes, my time. I was like, oh, my God. Oops. But I hope y'all had fun. I hope you think some of the videos are interesting. We still have more we can watch at like tomorrow night or whatever, or tomorrow evening. I probably won't actually start this late again tomorrow. Like tomorrow will probably be like, I don't know. I don't know. We'll just kind of see what happens. I never actually know, so I can't tell you. But anyway, if y'all want to go hang out and visit Slasher's stream, like, that is his channel name. Apparently, there's going to be discussion about Nicolas Cage being Superman, which sounds horribly disturbing. Like, that just sounds like a terrible idea. But let's go talk about that. So, anyway, so if y'all would like, please follow me to Slasher Mixed Blisters channel. Love y'all. See. Right? Oh, okay, now, okay. I was making sure I didn't close it on it. I thought I closed it where the link is. Anyway, I love y'all so much. Y'all are so awesome. And hopefully I'll see you in a few minutes. Lots of hugs, Night Breeze.